So, you know how in certain fields, the professional will spend years of their lives working on something that doesn't have any short term fruition? I'm thinking something like being an archaeologist, perhaps, or trying to dissect a language, something which requires you to look at history and try to uncover some truth, return to what this object means, what these symbols mean, and establish that clearly. Spend your whole years of your decades of your career perhaps working on that, and you don't come up with a solution. Thinking maybe something like researching something in outer space, something which you can't definitively prove. And I was thinking about that. I was thinking that, and I was thinking about what Rilke, I think, said about how there will be years of questioning and then there will be years of answering. And lately I've been feeling a bit fatalistic, especially this morning. And I woke up, I did a bunch of painting, so I have paint all over my hands. And I did these paintings and I had a Kit Kat. And then I found out that I'm going to be vice president of the Dharma Buddhist Society, which was it's exciting. I applied for so many things, and it's good to hear back something positive from one of them. And then looked over my bed, and I kind of saw the paintings I'd made from afar. A lot of them were just I thought they were okay, not very good. And because I don't have much technical skill, I've really lost that. They just kind of seemed like, okay, this is what I could do easily and it would have meaning. So I did that, and now I'm looking at the paintings, I'm like, whoa, pretty good job. And I don't know, I was just thinking about this. I'm thinking about how sometimes you'll spend a lot of time asking the right questions or trying to formulate the questions I'm starting to realize is an important endeavor. But you won't always answer it. And then sometimes all of a sudden you will receive the answers. I'm not sure if these positive things that are happening are answers exactly. I've struggled to believe that happiness is ever the goal. I've always thought that happiness can't be the goal. I mean, hedonism is bad, and to seek pleasure is not good. And I think that when I've confronted suffering, I've confronted grief, doing difficult things, that's when I've been able to achieve happiness, I guess, and something deeper than that, like peace, something like being at ease with yourself, providing comfort to your soul. Lately, though, I've been thinking perhaps happiness is the goal. I mean, when I think about all these systems I come up with, I think about how I'm painting, or I think about how much time I spent trying to figure out what's going on in my mind. I was watching videos about Carl Jung, and then I was listening to a podcast about Palestine as I was doing my painting. And I think that all of these things were just attempts to be happier. I thought that I might hear something that would intellectually stimulate me, or I might find a new framework of looking at my life that would be thoughtful. And separately to all this, I've been thinking about this guy I've been seeing. It always comes back to this, doesn't it? I'm thinking about this guy I've been seeing. And I have come to the conclusion that I do indeed have to break up with him. I'd realized this in bits and pieces, like a revelation. It came to me that I need to cut things off with him and do it on my own terms for all sorts of reasons, including my ego, but also, more importantly, just to show myself that I can be brave. If action breeds impulse, then I need to do something brave in order to feel like a brave person. And I think sometimes I satisfy myself with knowing just that the impulse is there. But I've heard someone say that you need to practice a lot of these impulses like muscles. So if you don't practice it, it gets out of the habit of being brave or being kind or whatever I want to be. In my case, it is bravery. And I realized this because I realized that it's really important for me to connect with someone emotionally. It's really important for me to engage with someone about what went wrong in their childhoods and what they like and what they think about the world around them. And I feel that I can talk with people, especially this guy, about the world around us in abstract ways, and he's open-minded and curious. But I think that doesn't extend to his internal world and mine. I think I extend that to my internal world a lot. And as I write in my diary, that's a great privilege. I get to explore that part of myself because it is me, my consciousness. But it doesn't express curiosity about what I'm thinking and feeling, and like about my mind, like what I've learned, and his own emotional makeup either. And I think, and I don't think he thinks about it unless it's like, he has some sort of inconvenience. Sometimes, like, people will disregard their bodies their entire lives until they contract some serious ailment. And that's sort of the way he approaches his mind and his emotions. He only views his psyche when it's to achieve some goal, like to compliment himself, just like suggest how, great he is. Or it's when the emotions are bubbling to the surface and it's too much for him and he has to like address it at some point and address the fact that his well-being is important. And one of the ways his well-being expresses himself is his psychological expression. And I was thinking about all this, and I was thinking about how that's not something I'm going to compromise on. I want to be with someone who I can talk to, like school of lifestyle, and someone who is not a healer of my pain, but is interested in talking about it. Because I find that like Jungian invitation to explore the self and figure out what's happening up there, I find that really exciting. And I love to read books about like psychology, and I love to think about how other people are thinking and what lessons they've learned and how they carry those lessons with them. I feel like sometimes I meet people who are very proud or people who are very mean, and I hadn't realized it, but I actually have this great superpower of kind of knowing like that this is an issue and not trying to win them over and like knowing what exactly to say to them. Like when I meet very proud people, I've learned that you need to express your great qualities in a subtle manner, and I don't know, I think it puts them in their place a little bit. In any case, the whole point of this is that I recently made a decision a few months ago, and the decision was this, that I'm going to start choosing optimism over fatalism. And I'd gotten really good at this, especially at the infancy of this realization. I was applying it to my life in a number of ways very intuitively because it was new and exciting. And now I think I'm kind of forgetting that, because this morning when I was feeling so sad, I didn't know what that meant anymore. What does it mean even to choose optimism over fatalism when stuff isn't making sense in your life and you're feeling things very darkly? How are you supposed to choose optimism? And to me, optimism in the beginning was just remembering that things feel like really bad right now, but they've gotten good again, and that I will laugh again. I will find something that excites me again. And I think that over the past few months, there hasn't been much precedent of me finding a book that I really like or finding a practice I really like in that sense. But I did meet this guy, and I'm reading this comic book right now, this comic book series called Nana. I know that I enjoy journaling, and that when I write down what I'm thinking, exactly what I'm thinking in, I have like the most like really cool entries to look back on. And with these paintings, I'm doing them partly just because I want to put something on my wall. I'm doing these paintings, but I'm not getting like something out of it in a very like real sense right now. The process I'm not enjoying too much. I like looking at the painting when it's finished, but the process I'm not really enjoying all that much, if I'm being honest. But I think that I want to be positive and think about what is working out in my life right now, because there are a lot of things that are working out, but I feel like there's so much darkness that I'm feeling that it's preventing me from actually seeing what's working out in my life. For example, there is the Tipoca Ball coming up. I'm going to go to the beach. I'm going to go clubbing. I'm going to go to this boating party with the Durham Union. Even today, I have things to do. I have Eid, and then my friend Amal, she's like having a party like for postgrads, and I'm going for some reason. And I have a dress to wear for that. And I always wanted to wear a dress. I never got the chance to wear a dress as much. Then I'm gonna go to Manchester probably with the same friend who wants to go with me to this concert I want to watch, and then maybe I'll try some substances. And yeah, I think that once I start putting up these pictures on my wall, I think I'll feel better. And I was really encouraged when I was going downstairs to buy myself a Biscoff flavored Kit Kat today, because I looked down at my hands and I saw paint. And even though I've been in my mind so much all day and feeling like really overwhelmed and like sad, looking down at my hands showed me I'm still capable of doing things. And I sometimes feel like I can't see myself, I can't see my achievements, and I can't see the work that I'm doing. And I think my mother said to me that in a positive way. She said this to me, you're impossible to ignore. And I think when I put these pictures on my wall and like I go to these events and I write, I think that I will be impossible for myself to ignore. I really like this part about Buddhist teaching, which encourages self-love. And I think with Buddhism, sometimes it can be hard to like sort of apply that to your own life, because you feel like, I do like pleasure and perhaps I'm not willing to forfeit that at all. I don't want to forfeit pleasure. And it seems like Buddhism is telling you to do that, which to some extent it is. It's telling you to like kind of get rid of desire. And I think desire is a wonderful thing. I think I love desire. I like to flirt and I like to look beautiful. I like to paint. I like being hungry. I like to want, I like to want things. And maybe, like, I think the key to peace is to stop wanting things, or to satisfy them simply, to like, your wants shouldn't need such big responses, that they can have simple responses. Because Buddha tried to like, not die, but he tried to starve himself, and that didn't work for him. He said you need to go like on the middle path, and I think that that middle path is what is at the crux of Buddhism. You should be doing things in moderation, and it's not about extremes in that sense. And I think that I'm slowly carving out my own middle path and trying to stay on it and try to figure out like what works for me. Because I think that with Buddhism, because it's such a focus on like renouncing pleasure in that sense, you feel like it's not applicable. But I think perhaps it might be in any case applicable, because it's itself as an ideology, as a philosophy rather, telling you to just do things in moderation. So I guess my point is that like I don't have my phone recently, and I have all of these opportunities ahead of me, and I would just like to be around for them and see what happens, because I think that boys and stuff like that are kind of real distractions from having to cultivate meaning. You don't have to cultivate meaning if meaning is always or joy or whatever it is, whatever you want out of life can just be gotten from one phone call with the dude. So yeah, I'm gonna work on another painting now.